Hello all you beautiful people, how are you guys doing? So for today's video, we're going to be reacting to a lore video by Roosevelt. Roosevelt is a really good friend of mine, absolutely amazing, awesome Genshin content creator. I've made content with her in the past. Right after the Cotty Bear quest, me and her had like a whole big conversation going, talking about it, talking about the lore and different aspects of it. And then right before Fontaine hit, we were talking about like speculations, what we were expecting to see, and different like lore things. She is absolutely amazing, makes some fantastic, awesome stuff. And so I want to take this opportunity to react to this video that she made. It is called The Will of the Oratrice and Divine Judgment, Genshin Impact 4.0 Lore, Theory, and Speculation. Make sure you subscribe to Roosevelt, by the way. I'm sure she would love any type of support you guys would throw her way. I would appreciate it as well. Alright, I am ready. Raiden is ready. She's chomping. And let's get it started.
Acts of the
Oh yeah, also spoilers for that.
So we got lots of lore from Fontaine. A secret society bent on dissolving everyone. Paimon
Yes.
a rainbow balloon.
Yes.
Eat Abyss Dragon Jam. Rainbows
Yes.
are canon. You name
Yes.
it. But did the Oratrice find him guilty?
Ooh.
So we got to thinking.
I was wondering about this as well.
The Oratrice
Let's go.
Cardinal.
Wow, she said the whole name.
During this process, the Oratrice takes people's belief in justice and converts it into an energy source, indemnitium. Also, apparently it's always right and it also has a consciousness.
Yes.
Although it's not stated, the tutorials, all these mechanisms are primal lights or primal embers and so on. Now, everywhere you go in the desert, you see remnants of Desert civilization, all characterized by a cyan glow in the architecture, devices, and machines.
Right.
So perhaps this cyan glow is primal energy. This primal energy seems to
and
be
that glow looks very
unlike
similar to the
energy,
Oratrice. I think that's where she's going.
For example, in Renee's investigation notes, he describes the interplay between Kavarna and Abyssal Power as an annihilation reaction.
Really?
You see the mutual destruction above the Vorakasha Oasis.
Yeah.
Actually, you witness the annihilation reaction itself as you cleanse the tree's defilement and this unaligned energy bursts from the tree. It's super interesting how the new tree is also cyan.
Oh, snap. So, okay, real quick, I'm gonna pause it right there for a second. So, this is kind of what I was thinking before, or some of the same lines of how I was thinking before, that the arcade system with the Phenumia and Nucia, or however you say that, I'm probably saying it wrong, she's probably saying it correct. I think those are very primal energies, right? Compared to the elements that we kind of have right now with like pyro, cryo, etc., with like the vision, like the elements regarding the like visions and things like that. I think things like the arcade system and like this cyan kind of more like kind of primal thing, I guess it's like a different layer, right? Like maybe the other elements eventually got birthed from these elements, maybe, type of situation. I think that's the direction maybe that the lore is taking, but I think that makes sense, right? That it's like, oh, these ancient, like that's like a classical thing, right? Like these ancient technologies are a little bit more powerful than the modern ones are, right? They're a little bit more, but they're a little bit more like harder to control, maybe, or they're, it's hard, it's kind of maybe like more difficult to kind of figure out. But I like this, right? I think I like color theory. Right, well, this isn't color theory. This is theories based on color. Very different. Theories based on color, I think, is really good because I do think this is done very intentionally, right? Because I think if you look at this, for example, with the ship, right? Automatically with like a fuel source or a fire source, you would probably think it would be more orange or like red and things like that, but they intentionally made it this very cyan, and it's not even like, oh, blue fire is hotter than red fire type of thing. Usually when they do blue fire, it looks a little bit different. Like this looks more like cybernetic, right? I think the biggest thing is that the cyan color reminds me of very like cybernetics, so it very much fit with the Deshret technology.
And unlike raw elemental energy, and this is the really important part, both Kavarna and Abyssal Power have a will, or a form of self-recognition. It's also worth noting that Kavarna came from the goddess of flowers, who was a Seelie, and the goddess of flowers even refers to Kavarna as her daughter. Even further, the Pari are essentially sentient forms of Kavarna. And to speculate a little bit more, Maybe this is related to why Child was deemed guilty.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm ready for
tells
this.
us about how he fell into the abyss as a teenager. You could perhaps think about it as a cosmic darkness within him. Imagine then, the Oratrice is like Kavarna in that it not only has a will, but also an opposition to the abyss. This could maybe explain the guilty verdict. It recognizes the will of the abyss within Child.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
About similarities between Child and Jacob, as Jacob's notes were used to develop synth. So perhaps he could tangentially be connected to the murder weapons.
Okay.
So
hold on. I actually really like that point, and I kind of want to like go into it a little bit more. So the idea of like this will of the abyss, right? I think the biggest thing here with the guilty verdict on Tartaglia is he's not aware like why it makes sense or like what its reason is, but for what we know, right, the Oratrice is always correct. And so it's just like, what, he had nothing to do with it, right? He was like a child. He himself was Child was a child. Yeah, Child was a child when the disappearances started happening, so of course he has no connection to it. But this idea of the will, right? The will of the abyss. What if it's not? Oh man, this is going into like an even crazier place, than maybe what Ruse is getting to. But what if it's literally what's fueling his abyssal power? What if it actually is a being, right? Like again, this kind of concept of energy, right, that has like a will. When she was talking about Kavarna, and we were talking about Kavarna and the Padres are like essentially like an extension of that energy having a will, right? What if abyssal energy has a will and that will is hiding, right? Right? Are you with me? What if it's hiding inside Tartaglia and Tartaglia is like using or borrowing its powers temporarily, but it's still inside Tartaglia? So what if the Oratrice was not deeming Tartaglia as guilty, but the will inside him as guilty? And since they are one person right now, like, are you kind of like is it kind of following? Like, am I being super crazy? I might be being super duper crazy. But essentially what I'm saying is that there's two beings inside of Tartaglia. You have Tartaglia and you have this will of this abyss, and it's an actual person with actual like thoughts and wills, kind of like the Padres with Kavarna, right? And those two beings are inside Tartaglia, and so when the Oratrice was judging Tartaglia, it wasn't only judging Tartaglia, it was also judging that will, right? That extra energy, that abyssal thing inside Tartaglia, because it does have a will of its own. So it wasn't really saying Tartaglia himself was guilty, but that will inside him, the thing that's giving him his power, that thing is fueling him, that conscious energy, right? The concept of conscious energy, that might have been what it was judging. I don't know. Maybe I'm going crazy, but and I don't know if she's gonna make that. I don't know if Ruse is gonna make that conclusion too. But just hearing these facts, I feel like this concept of conscious energy, that might be the wave. That might be it.
Having a will, and forces also being entities. Kavarna and the Oratrice both have wills.
True.
I mentioned that the goddess of flowers referred to Kavarna as her daughter, and in the same vein, the God King also calls the last divine halberd, the princess, his daughter. In the final chapter, the God King even says about the princess, she shall unleash her true self. This implies that the divine halberds were ambiguously both an object and a being, or they gained sentience. So even regardless if the divine halberds specifically represent divine nails or not, this idea of will and self-recognition is there. And again, this is just speculation, but perhaps this is also commentary about the evolution of elemental life forms, from pure energy, gaining some sort of form, and also gaining will, sentience, self-recognition.
To be honest, though, when we really think about it, there's a lot of creatures in Tevat which are pure elemental beings, which have, like, wills and things like that, right? Like, just from the basic to the basic slimes, right? Slimes are enemies, but they're also pure elemental energies that, you know, have sentience to some degree. They can move around, they can, like, have abilities, like some make shields and things like that, to bounce around, they attack, right? somewhat have wills, you could say that. The Bishops too, right? The Bishops are also noted as being some of the OG elemental creatures, right? And they certainly have wills of their own. Some of the most intelligent ones, like having speech and being able to like what was it, replicate like certain like abilities and features that other people have. So I don't think this concept of like elemental things eventually evolving to have wills is that crazy. Actually, if anything, I feel like it does make sense.
That divine nails are described as instruments of
Of
divine
judgment.
judgment and
Right,
retribution, and the Oratrice also renders judgment as well.
It also renders judgment.
And then there's the first divine halberd.
What
this
if
next part is even more unhinged than...
Wait, hold on. Before she gets unhinged, let me get unhinged first. Okay. And speaking of unhinged, what if the Oratrice is a giant, essentially what is a giant divine nail, but kind of unleashed, right? It's a divine nail that has a will, but it's kind of able to communicate at least a little bit through those tickets, right? Through its conclusions, through its what do they call those? It's verdict, right? What if it's able to communicate through its verdict? What if these nails actually do have a will and do know kind of what they're doing? Like they're automatic, like in a way they're like automatic weapons to like seek out and take out abyssal power, abyssal energy. But what if it's like not an automatic thing, but is a genuine will of a being in there, a will of like something being in there? And now the Oratrice has kind of given it legs in a way, right? Like legs, quote unquote, or maybe more freedom, right? More kind of room. I like this visual of it spreading out, right? What if it's like it's always had this kind of like will, it's always had this kind of like idea, but there was no way, like, but it was given a specific job as a nail, right? It was given a specific job as a nail to specifically seek out and destroy abyssal power, but when given the opportunity, when given the chance, when given a device, it can do things like this because it's always had like a will, it's always had thoughts, it always has had reasonings, right? One thing I want to point out is this idea of the Melazines, right? The Melazines are able to, they've said it in trailers, but we haven't seen it yet, but they have very good eyesight and they could see certain things that humans can't. What if that kind of ties into what the Oratrice and the nails can do, is that they can see things that other people can't, right? And again, given a platform, right? We have a nail here, quote unquote, that's essentially given a platform to speak. It can see things that other people can't see, and so it can make these certain verdicts, and they're always correct because they can notice and observe things that, you know, normal people can't. Maybe, I don't know. Let's get crazy.
The last chapter of the book reads, the first divine halberd, Irmin, once pierced the Axis Mundi and connected the 9 worlds.
Okay.
Outside of the book, Irmin is a very important name. He was the king of Conria. The book...
Yes.
So let me just summarize what we could maybe argue Irmin is. Human.
Okay.
He was the king of Conria, the pride of humanity. Seelie.
Okay.
Irmin is a divine halberd, which may also represent divine envoys. I made a video on this. Dragon. I also made a video on this. Conrians may be evolved bishop people on the merit of Nibelung being the Dragon King.
Maybe.
As Nibelung is also a race of dwarves in Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen, which includes the Alberics. Also, they can only be distinguished from normal human beings by their unique eyes. Something related to a big data tree? All this discussion has gone back to inanimate things and energy having a will. Right. Let me just be blunt with my insanity and suggest taking this a step further. Maybe
Let's go.
Is the personification of the will of Irminsul. I mean, surely it's no coincidence that Conria is below Sumeru, and both Rukkhadevata and Nahida are avatars of Irminsul. And we then also have a kind of similar situation with the goddess of flowers and Kavarna and the Pari. Maybe. I don't know. This is crack. Individually, all these ideas have merit, but I can't exactly reconcile any of them. But there's a commonality between 3 of them, and it's the color Cyan. You
True,
heard it here
true,
first,
true.
folks. Move over, Scarlet King. King Earman, the King of Conria, is the Cyan King.
The Cyan King.
I did leave someone out, though, so what about dragons?
Yep.
So back when Nuvalet was first revealed
the
during the final feast, I made a post asking if people thought he was more Oceanid or Bishop looking. With new information, especially the legend of the Hydro Dragon and the Archon quest making it very clear it's raining when Nuvalet is sad, yeah, he's a dragon. But in the 4.1 trailer, we got a preview of Nuvalet's animations.
Okay,
and watching
hold
them,
on.
I find him to actually be more Sealy coated. With his flowy coattails, the antenna, and also there's a lot of cyan, but I know that's probably just like his hydraulic
energy premier water
But
connection.
there's also a triquetra. This is
a
symbol I've always associated with Sealy's, as you can see it on their court, the Cyan King, and there is something there with primal energy. I just think it would be super funny because the Cyan King does not have the same ring as like the Scarlet King.
Cyan King sounds kind of cool. I don't know. I kind of like it. The Cyan King. I don't know.
Listen,
I'm with it. I'm with it.
This would be pretty unhinged, but thank you if you've made it this far in the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and
I will like, comment, and subscribe. You do too, or else you're banned.
On my amazing athleticism, the Olympic level mental gymnastics. I appreciate you all very much, and I co-host a stream with my friend Owl on twitch.tv.
Yo, check it out, check it out,
so come by and catch us be real silly or something. Okay, that's all. Bye.
Awesome, love it, love it. I'm giving it that like. Make sure you guys give it a like too. Don't hit it as much as me. Just hit it once. Hit the fireworks and that's it. Man, that was great. Wait! Alright, that was an absolutely fantastic video. I think what I want to talk about the most, I think my favorite part was right here. The will. The concept of energy, right? Being its own being, I think really, really, really does make sense. Genuinely think about it, right? Like, what is the Oratrice doing? You know? The Oratrice is listening and giving judgment. It's energy communicating, right? It's a machine and a consciousness communicating because it is given a platform for it. Like, these nails, they don't have a platform to communicate, right? There's no system where they can give out judgments. There's no, like, it's not being given like, oh, here's the facts and stuff, and this is how it's weighing, and this is how it's deciding. There's no way, like, this it's like a being with no way to talk, right? Like, let's think about the nails as being like a being with no way to talk. Think about this energy as being a being as no way to talk. Suddenly, when you give something a way to talk, when you give something a way to listen and communicate and show how it's communicating, like the scales, right? Like, those scales show how it's like thinking about each of the things, thinking about each of the facts, and then eventually that Honkai Star Rail card thing is it, willingly communicating with the people. Like, what if you could do that with each of these other energy sources? I don't think that's too far off, right? Because we have seen, again, with like the Vishaps, the evolution of energy, right? The evolution of energy is very much, I think, a thing in Tevat. So I actually don't think it's that crazy to say that he even has a will. And I actually really, really, really like that concept. And that's personally my favorite takeaway from this entire video. Let's check out these comments. What do you say? What do you say? I agree that Tartaglia was given a guilty verdict by the Oratrice because of the taint of Abyss. And like I said earlier in the video, I took it a degree further. It's not just the taint of the Abyss within him. I think the specific Abyss power within him is a genuine will. I think it is like a being that has housed itself inside Tartaglia and maybe is a being that has used those abyssal powers before, maybe even like the same form, and it's housing itself inside him. Like, there's two beings in there. Like, I'm taking it further. Create the world formula, becoming unhinged. Oh yeah, no, I think that's really cool too. The different lores, I think the different regions, them coming kind of together and making like this one big lore like soup kind of thing is a really, really cool thing, because that's, kind of how regions are. It's just like everybody kind of has their own like lore and theories of how the world is, and like bits and pieces might be correct together. I think the one thing I want to add about this, very amazing video, it's really awesome. You mentioned Zeelies being cyan, just like others, plus they can light out them. Oh, true. Because, yeah, there's Pyro, Electro, Dendro, Light Zeelies, and the yeah. Okay, that's so true. Yeah, each of the Zeelies, they are that kind of cyan, pure energy. But they, again, like this idea of, like, split, right? I feel like that cyan kind of energy eventually has split evolved, right? Evolving energy. I think that those two concepts, right? I think the will of energy and evolving energy, I think those are it. I think that's it. I think that's a really, really cool thing. Okay, I have finished crafting my comment. Now, how about you guys take a look? I love the idea of pure energy having a will of its own and having the propensity to evolve. We have seen it before with the Vishaps. They are noted as being pure elemental beings with the nature to evolve too. For example, I can't spell example, some Vishaps are just normal creatures that can absorb elements. Some are more knowledgeable and can communicate, like Ajdaha, and finally Sumi, who is pretty much all human aside from her eyes. Now here's where I get really, really crazy. What if it's not just a will of Abyss? What if it's actually the will of a being residing in Child, and it's using him as a host / vehicle to escape from where it was in? Child is borrowing its power because it's residing inside him. Do you remember the concept of Millicines being able to see what normal people can't see? What if the Oratrice has the ability, but especially for abyssal energy? So what if the Oratrice was able to see the energy inside Child, this other being with a will of its own, and it was able to figure out that it did have a connection to disappearance cases? TLDR, or if there are two beings inside Child and Tartaglia, and two beings inside Tartaglia, Child himself, and then this abyssal being, and the abyssal being was the one who got the guilty verdict. I'm probably crazy. Cut it, send it. I will see what she thinks. Guys, this was an absolutely outstanding video. If you guys haven't watched it, please do. It is called The Will of the Oratrice and Divine Judgment. I cut out a lot from just kind of me watching because I was so enamored by the video that I was just enjoying actually just kind of watching it. The editing was amazing. The theories were great. I love all the actual with the crackpot theories. She always puts in her evidence as well. Like they're not more like mine where I feel like I just kind of throw things out just regarding things that I learned just in the moment, but she is like hard into like the actual like lore with all her evidence. Even if it's a little bit crazy, it's still backed with some good information. Please do check it out. Roosevelt on YouTube. Please do subscribe, like the video, tell them your boy Meteor Falcon sent you. And that's it for me. I love this video. I love the concept of energy having a will of its own and being able to evolve, have the propensity to evolve. I think it's great. I can't wait for the new 4.1 update. We get a lot more about the story. Have yourselves a fantastic day. If you enjoyed this video, please do give me suggestions of other videos to watch in the future, other theories or just like Genshin talk. I really like talking about like lore or like discussions about Genshin, and I was having fun, and I hope you guys were too. That is it for me. Have yourselves a fantastic day. I will see you guys next time, and peace out.